Every farm has a story. When it comes to dairy farming, these stories are often only heard by the animals raised, the land stewarded, and the family that makes it all possible. Join me, Dairy Gal Val, as I interview individuals from across the dairy industry, both within the United States and across the globe, discussing topics like farm management, the food industry, ag business and technology, and most importantly, their farm story. This is the Dairy Hour Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour Podcast. I'm your host, Dairy Gal Val, or Val Levine, and I am here with the 76th Alice in Dairyland, Ashley Hagenow. And Ashley, how are you today?
I am doing so well. I'm coming to you from the state of Wisconsin, where we have some pretty frigid temperatures this week, but we have plenty of provisions here in Wisconsin. It's amazing to see our hardworking dairy farmers taking the utmost best care of their animals in these winter temperatures. And it's a great day. The sun is out, and I'm on the Dairy Hour podcast. So that's even better.
And she's sending that cold temperatures my way, so she's even more happy about that. So we'll be looking forward to those in the near future. Thankfully, not as cold, hopefully. So, Ashley, if you want to tell us a little bit about your role as Alice.
Certainly, Alice in Dairyland is a program for the state of Wisconsin. As the 76th Alice in Dairyland and all of the women who have come before me, I serve as the official ambassador for Wisconsin's $104.8 billion agricultural industry. Alice in Dairyland is a 1 year position with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And in this 1 year of service, I will travel anywhere between 45,000 to 50,000 miles, if not more, promoting Wisconsin's agricultural industry through media interviews, speeches, and presentations, all through the lens of being a marketing and public relations professional. It is such a fun experience. I can already say I'm about halfway through this year serving as Alice in Dairyland, and it is going by so fast. But I have had so much fun. I have learned so very much, and I've made so many fun memories along the way.
Good. So I'm like a big fan of Alice in Dairyland from way back, up through what used to be the New York State Dairy Princess program. I was always like, man, like this program is awesome, but I really wish that I was in Wisconsin and like got to do Alice in Dairyland for like the whole year kind of thing. Because that's what it is for you. It's like not just a title that you hold and still do other things. That is like a full-time commitment, correct?
It is. This is a full-time commitment for me for 1 year. And it's so funny you mentioned that, Val, because I went to college in Minnesota, and a lot of my friends have been Princess K of the Milky Way. And they've shared the same sentiment with me. They're like, oh my gosh, we absolutely love the Princess K of the Milky Way program, but it was more when they were in college and not a full-time job like Alice in Dairyland is. And what I love about all of the programs is we're all promoting agriculture and dairy and all of the amazing processes that allow us to produce our food. But I feel so blessed to be in Wisconsin and to have this honor to have this full-time job that doesn't even feel like work for 1 year promoting Wisconsin agriculture and doing that in so many different ways. And it truly is an honor to serve in this role.
That's awesome. So I guess we should take it back and talk about like how you ended up, even applying for the role of Alice in Dairyland. So if you want to tell us a little bit about how you grew up.
Certainly. I grew up in agriculture, though not directly on a farm. My dad had grown up on a 60 cow dairy farm near Green Bay, Wisconsin, in the Manitowoc County area. And he had always been involved in agriculture and in dairy. And he has been a dairy cattle nutritionist for many years, for most of his career. And so both of my parents have a love for agriculture and rural America and just all of those experiences that result from being involved in the industry, whether directly or not directly from a farm. So we live out in the country. We have about 40 acres of land that we rent out to a local farmer who rotates different row crops each year on our field. And my family, I have my parents, Bob and Lisa, and my younger sister, Sarah. And so, growing up, when I was younger, my parents felt it very important for me and my younger sister, Sarah, to be involved in youth organizations like 4 H and FFA. One of my first areas that I was involved with in 4 H specifically was judging dairy cattle, presenting oral reasons, being on a team, learning the fundamentals of evaluating dairy cows. Those were some core and key experiences for me from a young age, being in second or third grade to taking that involvement all the way through college. That was one of my first areas that I really got involved in agriculture. And also in 4-H and FFA, my sister and I, we showed livestock species such as dairy cattle, horses, rabbits. I remember participating at the county fair and other local fairs with our vegetable projects, our photography projects, you name it. We just took full advantage of those opportunities. And as I got older, I loved the leadership experiences that came from 4-H and FFA and the chance to build your communication skills, your storytelling skills, your teamwork skills from serving as a 4-H club officer and an FFA chapter officer. Those were all core experiences as well that really allowed me to learn more about the opportunities involved in agriculture. And so, right after high school, I attended Rio High School, and it's a very small community that is so supportive. I loved being continually involved in the agricultural industry in and outside of school. I served after high school as a state FFA officer for the state of Wisconsin, and that took me on a journey for 1 year as well, promoting Wisconsin FFA and agricultural education in Wisconsin and having the chance to meet so many incredible people and continue to build my network within agriculture. And then after graduating high school and serving as a state FFA officer, I attended the University of Minnesota. I started there as a student fall of 2019 and just graduated this past May of 2023 with a degree in agricultural communication and marketing. And college was such a formative experience as well. I studied agricultural communication and marketing with minors in animal science and agricultural and food business management, and continued having the ability to learn more about agriculture and develop my skill set, especially when it comes to marketing and communications and public relations efforts on behalf of agriculture. And as I was a college student on campus, I was involved with an agricultural sorority, the National Agri-Marketing Association, the Go for Dairy Club, and a few other key extracurricular organizations. And I was also involved off campus with various student organizations such as Agriculture Future of America. I held various internships within the space of agriculture and dairy that all along the way continued to solidify my love for storytelling, especially when it comes to agriculture, and really allowing me to realize that I can be a connection to agriculture as well for many different types of people when it comes to questions they might have about food production and how our food is produced. And also, very formative experiences for me in college were being a member of our collegiate dairy cattle judging team, as well as our dairy challenge team at the University of Minnesota, which those two experiences alone have impacted my life so much. And I use those skills from dairy judging and dairy challenge on the job every day as Alice in Dairyland, and will continue to use that knowledge and those experiences moving forward in my career. So, safe to say, I love the industry of agriculture and I love the people. And it is such an honor for me to combine all of these different skill sets and experiences and these connections while serving in the role of Alice in Dairyland.
Definitely. And that is just, you're an excellent spokesperson for not just dairy, but all of agriculture. And we're so happy, like, even though I'm not from Wisconsin, it's still great to have such a great spokesperson out there promoting agriculture. So at what point were you like, I think that, going for Alice in Dairyland is something that I'm interested in? Is it something that you looked up to as a young girl, or is it something that later in your high school career, or at what point did you say, set your sights on becoming Alice?
Applying for the role of Alice in Dairyland was definitely something I've always had in the back of my mind. When I look back and reflect on some of my experiences from growing up and more recently as a college student, I remember running for state FFA office in Wisconsin and having some notes on the feedback that we receive. You should run for Alice in Dairyland as well in the future. And I still have that note in my room at home. And it serves as a constant reminder and as a source of motivation for me. So that was where, I started to seriously think after high school more so, wow, this might be something I want to pursue in 4 to 5 years' time. And as I went throughout college, it was something that continued to stay in the back of my mind. And I do remember from a young age getting to meet former Alice in Dairylands at, the county fair, the Wisconsin State Fair, at other events across Wisconsin. And I was just admiring the program and its ability to connect with so many different people across Wisconsin and beyond. And when I got to about my junior year of college, I would say I started to more seriously think about, what does life look like after college? Where do I see myself? What is it that I see myself pursuing in the next few years? And how can I get there? And Alice in Dairyland continued to be in the back of my mind. And as I went into my senior year of college more recently last year, I was at the time maybe thinking about grad school focused on ag communications. I was thinking about getting a full-time job somewhere within agriculture, maybe taking a little bit of a break. But Alice in Dairyland continued to be there as a constant thought, like, wow, this might be something that is really fun to pursue. And let's maybe go for it right after I graduate college. And that's ultimately what I decided. Was about a year ago. I made the decision to apply and start getting all of my application materials ready for review and to be sent for further review by the various committees that review those applications materials for Alice in Dairyland. And that's when I started the incredible journey of running for the role of Alice in Dairyland. And I'm so thankful that it has worked out the way that it has, and that I've had this incredible experience representing Wisconsin agriculture. But it's always been, again, something in the back of my mind that I thought about and I decided to take action on, because I felt truly called to this position to be a connection to all of Wisconsin agriculture and the industry of agriculture in general.
Awesome. So what does it look like when you want to apply for Alice in Dairyland? Like, what are the requirements, before you can apply? How does that work?
We are right now in the midst of recruiting our next Alice in Dairyland, Wisconsin's 77th Alice in Dairyland. And the application process and the running process looks very similar from year to year. So, what this looks like is in January, applications open for Alice in Dairyland. For this year specifically, applications opened January 2nd, and they will officially close on January 31st. So there is about a month-long window for applications to be open. And what those requirements are to serve as Alice in Dairyland are that you must be a Wisconsin resident, you must be 21 years of age at least to serve in the role, you must be female, you have to have at least 3 years of experience in marketing, communications, educations, or public relations, whether that's gained through work experience, internships, or through other sorts of educational programming. And lastly, it's very important that you are passionate about and have a love for agriculture, and specifically Wisconsin agriculture. So if you meet those requirements, you are able to apply for Alice in Dairyland. That application process looks like a brief application form, submitting a resume, cover letter, a references page, and then we start the official interview process. But that is the application process in a nutshell.
Very cool. And I'm sorry if I missed it or not. Was there an age cap on that, or is it just 21 and older?
There is no age cap
Okay.
on Alice in Dairyland. Great question. You just have to be at least 21 years of age.
Very cool. And do you, as the 76th Alice in Dairyland, do you get the opportunity to be a part of picking the next Alice in Dairyland, or is that something that just the Department of Ag gets to do, or how does that work?
That is a great question. So we actually have a few sets of judges that play a very important role in the Alice in Dairyland selection process. I'll start with the preliminary interviews. So after you have submitted an application for Alice in Dairyland, we then have our preliminary interviews that will take place at the end of February, the middle to end of February. That is a panel of 3 judges that are coordinated through the Department of Agriculture here in Wisconsin. They select the top candidates for Alice in Dairyland each year. And then this all leads up to the Alice in Dairyland finals, which take place each year, where each new Alice is selected. So we have another set of 3 judges that serve as the selection panel during the Alice in Dairyland finals. So there's 2 different selection panels, and they themselves are the ones who are making the decisions for both the top candidate group and select who will be the next Alice in Dairyland. In my role as the current Alice in Dairyland, I am there as a support system and there to answer any questions that top candidates might have during the running process. And I love that about serving as the current Alice, is that I can be there as a mentor and a source of support for these young women going through this amazingly transformative experience. It's such an honor to be on that side of things this year. But when it comes to selecting Alice in Dairyland each year, we have amazing qualified judges and members of selection panels who fill that role.
Very cool. And so I guess, so what month does the finals take place in?
The Alice in Dairyland finals take place each year in May,
May.
anywhere from the first weekend in May until the middle of May. As an example, this year, the official dates for the 77th Alice in Dairyland finals are May 2nd through the 4th of
Okay.
2024 here in Door County.
Very cool. And do you have plans solidified for after your Alice in Dairyland term, or are you still up in the air?
I am taking the time right now to just soak in all that this experience of serving as Alice in Dairyland has to offer. And after I officially conclude my year of service right around the middle of July this summer, I will then continue to make decisions on what life holds after Alice in Dairyland. But I know that because of this experience, serving in the role of Alice and all of the experiences through internships and other work opportunities I've had, I wholeheartedly want to stay involved in the industry of agriculture in whatever way I can, continuing to help tell that story of how our food is produced and really share the stories of the hardworking people who make up the industry of agriculture.
Very good. So that basically is you're going to play it by ear and see where it goes. I like it.
Exactly right. And while still
Answer,
taking all the
we're just
time,
going to wing it.
exactly.
I
And
like
also taking all the time to be present in this experience and really make the most out of the last few months of serving in the role of the 76th Alice.
good. And that's important to make sure that you do soak in the experience because it's a really fantastic experience to get to be a part of. So that's a very good thing to get to do. So what are some of the fun events that you've gotten to do, like some of your key memorable events that you've gotten to take part in?
Some of the larger events that I have had the chance to attend as Alice in Dairyland so far include the Wisconsin Farm Technology Days, which takes place in the summer each year in Wisconsin and showcases technology and innovation within agriculture. And then I also attended the Wisconsin State Fair for the full 11 days and had the chance to meet so many amazing fair goers, exhibitors, and share more about Wisconsin agriculture with so many different people. And then World Dairy Expo is another huge event that Alice in Dairyland attends each and every year. And if you've had the chance to tune into the Supreme Champion ceremony before, you might have seen a certain individual carrying the envelope with the Supreme Champion results right through the middle of the colored shavings arena. And that was such a fun memory this year to do that as Alice in Dairyland, as we have a long history with World Dairy Expo of that specific task and other tasks during the world's largest dairy cattle show. So that was such a fun memory while serving as Alice in Dairyland. And another memory that was really unique for me this year was having the chance to travel internationally while serving as Alice in Dairyland for the first time in over 25 years for our program. So I had the chance to travel with the Ginseng Board of
Oh,
Wisconsin. If you haven't heard of ginseng before, it's a specialty root crop that is grown primarily in Wisconsin and primarily in central Wisconsin. And this root is exported all over the world. In fact, we export about 85% of ginseng all over the world. So when we traveled internationally, we traveled to Taiwan, mainland China, and Hong Kong. And I had the chance with the Ginseng Board of Wisconsin, some of their members and growers, to be able to share more about Wisconsin ginseng and Wisconsin agriculture and what makes Wisconsin such a great place to grow and produce ginseng. So those were some highlights so far while serving in the role of Alice in Dairyland. And we could talk all day long about all of the amazing memories and experiences that I've had so far serving in this role.
that's really cool that you've got an international basically trip as Alice in Dairyland with the ginseng board of all things. That's probably not even something that most people that would listen to this podcast would even realize that Wisconsin is, you know, you produce a ton of ginseng as far as the world is concerned right there in Wisconsin, which is just fascinating.
Oh
I
my
think
gosh. Yeah.
you guys also produce a lot of horseradish too, correct?
We produce large volumes of horseradish. We also rank number one in the nation for green beans or snap beans for processing, as well as cranberries, mink pelts, corn for silage to feed our hardworking dairy cows and other livestock species. And some of those other dairy products that Wisconsin is well known for includes cheese and specialty cheeses, as well as dairy goat products like milk and cheese, and also dry whey protein powder, since whey is a byproduct of cheese production. We have plenty of whey that
Yes,
we send all over Wisconsin and the country and even the world, which correlates with our large volumes of cheese production. So Wisconsin is so fascinating to me when it comes to agriculture. And I have learned so very much about our state's agricultural industry in the few short months that I've been serving as Alice in Dairyland, and I'll continue definitely to deepen that knowledge.
definitely. It is just fascinating to hear the different depths as far as, you know, the different things that you don't necessarily associate with those particular states. So it is just neat to hear all of those different different opportunities within. And I mean, it's not like it's a humongous state. And also, as we were talking before the podcast, it's fairly similar in climate to New York State, but then we also have very diverse ag operations between Wisconsin and New York. So
Yes. And I think that's what's so special about every state is they are unique in their own way, especially when it comes to agricultural production. And that's due to each state's natural resource base, its climate, where it's located in the country, right? So when serving as Alice in Dairyland, I get to know Wisconsin really well, but then in having conversations with people all over the country too, I've had so much fun learning more about different states and how they might compare to Wisconsin and what they are known for. And that's a super rewarding part of this experience as well for me.
awesome. So I guess at this point, I like to just hop into some fun random questions just to, you know, have fun, figure out a little bit more about you. So I guess your go-to ice cream flavor, because as Alice, ice cream is very important.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is like such a hard question because I love all types of ice cream. I would say though, from a young age, cookies and cream has been a constant for me. Like there's nothing better than a really delicious bowl or cone of cookies and cream ice cream, in my opinion. And I had the chance to work at Sassy Cow Creamery for a summer, which is one of our state's family owned creameries and dairy farms here in Wisconsin. and I had a lot of different types of ice cream, but cookies and cream still just always rises to the top for me.
Good. Yeah, cookies and cream is one of my staple go-tos. If I'm feeling like I need a little bit of a change from the normal favorites, cookies and cream is always a strong candidate in that pool of flavors. So
I love
good,
it.
good.
I love to hear it.
Your your dream vacation.
Ooh, my dream vacation.
And something says it's going to be somewhere as tropical at this point because it's so
Yeah,
cold there.
you know, and that's so funny because I do love going to the beach, but more recently, I have wanted to experience Europe, like in its entirety or certain areas of Europe. So my dream vacation would be to travel to Europe. And at this point, like backpack across Europe and experience so many different countries and so many different cultures because my sister and I, we both love history. And my sister has had the chance to go now to Denmark and Germany on some study abroads through college. And I'm hoping to get over there at some point as well. And I kind of want to do a sister trip or like a mother-daughter trip and maybe have some of our other family members come along because Europe to me is so fascinating with the history and the architecture of some places that you go and like the countryside and also the agricultural production. Holy cow. I mean, all of that combined makes Europe a very appealing place to vacation and visit for me right now. And if you can't tell by my describing the vacation, I struggle like sitting still and just like completely relaxing. So I would also make it like a productive vacation, probably throw in a lot of education, throw in some tours of maybe some farms or other businesses if we could, because that just sounds so appealing and so exciting to me at this point in my life.
Yeah, I also have the Europe bug, so I completely am on board with that. I also don't sit still on vacation. My husband is not overly thrilled with that aspect of my life, but I too do not like to sit still. But if you are headed to Europe and want some connections, let me know because I have a few great people that have been on this podcast that I can definitely set you up with.
Thank you.
So yes, you can enjoy that. That would be a lot of fun. So there you go. When you get done being Alice in Dairyland, you can, well, I think I want to go think about my experiences while backpacking across Europe.
That'll help me, that'll spur some creativity, right? For other ways to get involved in ag, right? I mean, I just think it'd be such a fun, informative, educational, exciting experience all wrapped into one. So we'll have to connect because I
Yes,
might take you up on your offer of some of those contacts.
sounds good. And I guess what is your go-to need to get in the zone music genre?
Ooh, my go-to need to get in the zone. So lately, this has been a trend for me, like the last couple of years, especially being in college, is movie soundtracks.
Movie
Like
soundtrack.
movie soundtracks, if there's no lyrics. So, like classical music that also doubles as a movie soundtrack. So, like, as an example, my sister, my mom, and I, right after Christmas, we went to see the movie Boys in the Boat. Not sure if you've heard of that movie, but it's
Have not.
about the US men's rowing team who were
Okay.
victorious at the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. So that was like, that's an example of like why I want to go to Europe too, is all of the history. I just think it's so cool. But so their soundtrack for Boys in the Boat is by this well-known composer that my sister and I absolutely adore. And he also composed the soundtrack for the movie Little Women when they did
Okay.
their remake a couple of years ago. So if I need to get like dialed in, focused, like we're talking, I need to just maybe sit down and crank out work for say an hour because it's important to take breaks, right? But like, you know, you
Yes.
need to have a pretty productive afternoon. I will plug in like a movie soundtrack. And then I'll go to another movie soundtrack and another one. And again, it's more classical music and there can't be words because that will distract me. So it's like a very specific
That
type
is
of
very
music.
specific.
But I have found that is my kind of magic trick for being able to hone in and focus when I need to, especially at the computer, or even if I'm just like reading a book in the morning or before I go to bed, I'll turn that same soundtrack on because then I can focus on the words, on the book. I get a little sleepy too, which is good for before you go to bed. So that would be my go-to. That would be my
Very
go-to.
well. And then you mentioned reading. So what book are you currently reading?
So I am reading a book by John Grisham. If
Okay.
anyone listening has heard of him before, he is a well-known author about like the law and that general topic. He was a lawyer himself, and some of his pieces of work that were made into films include The Firm, The Pelican Brief, Runaway Jury. So I really enjoy, at least at this phase in my life, reading these books that are focused on the law and policy and stuff like that. It's very fascinating to me. So the book I'm reading of his right now is called The Judges List, and I literally just started it 2 days ago. But so far, I'm like literally 2 chapters in. It's been really good and really enticing. So it's a lot about crime and law and
Okay.
all of these different topics combined. So that's what I enjoy reading for fun. I don't have a book right now that's more focused on like career development or personal or professional development, but I'll get to that in a
That's
couple of
okay.
months.
There's time for that. There's time for
There
that
is
later,
that.
right?
Yes, yes. And I have
I
those books too.
Yeah, I sometimes just to get away from like the stresses of everyday life, like I'm a novel person just because I like to read something. I'm a stressed out enough person in life. I like to read something that does not stress me out. So I try to stay away from crime and whatnot when I read because otherwise I would literally be like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going to happen? Yeah, we
I
don't need
know.
any more of that in my life. So we're going to stick to just like chill novels.
That's also, I read a lot of those as well. Like it depends on my mood and
Yes,
honestly, like what phase of life I'm going through. But yeah, I agree. Like a good novel is
the
always
last
great.
the last year I've been into the 1800s in England novels.
Okay.
So
Very cool. That's all. I would also love to
you,
read those as well.
you want to talk about historical Europe? There you go. Historical
I'll,
England.
I'll learn for that backpacking trip I'm gonna take.
There you go. Perfect. So I would like to end. I'd ask you if you could have some type of a quote that gives you inspiration and that means a lot to you. So, what is your quote?
My quote that has stuck with me for many, many years, at least 5 or 6 years now, is your experiences have gotten you this far, but it's up to you to keep going. And to me, this has two parts. First and foremost, when life seems overwhelming and you're just really stressed and there's lots going on, you're not sure how it's all going to get done, the experiences have gotten you this far portion of that quote really resonates with me because it showcases you've gotten through hard days and hard times before, you've faced challenges before in your life, and they have all prepared you for this moment and for whatever you might be having to face currently in your life, whether it's really good or maybe not as good, right? So that's the first part of the quote for me. And then the second part, but it's up to you to keep going, really to me showcases how we as human beings, we owe it to ourselves to be lifelong learners as much as we can each and every day, to learn something new each day or to gain a new perspective, to make a new friend, to have a new experience. That to me is what that second part of the quote means, that it's up to you to keep going. We are always going to be changing and evolving and wanting to have new experiences and learn new things. And I think that's what's so beautiful about life is we can reflect on where we've been, the experiences that we've had and how they've set us up for success at our present moment in life. But we have an amazing journey ahead of us, whatever that looks like, to really make the most out of all of our experiences and our day to day to really have a life that we are excited about and that really fulfills us. So that's that quote to me in a nutshell is your experiences have gotten you this far, but it's up to you to keep going. I definitely say that a few times in a week or a month just to have that constant reminder of how each of our journeys is unique and we really are the ones in charge of our final destiny.
Awesome.
I love it. Ashley, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I am so excited that I got the opportunity to meet you back at World Dairy Expo. I have a feeling that we'll be running into each other throughout time, I guess we'll say. And I'm really excited to see what you do the rest of your term as Alice in Dairyland. And I want to wish you well and wish you nothing but the best. And I can't wait to obviously, I'm going to totally stay in touch with you and hear all about your experiences when you do get to backpack through Europe, because I will be living vicariously through that. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure, and we will talk to you soon.
Oh, and thank you so much. I'm so, so thankful our paths crossed back in October at World Dairy Expo, and to have the chance to connect for the Dairy Hour podcast, to share more about Alice in Dairyland, my experiences, and some fun facts as well, was truly an honor. So thanks for all you do for the dairy industry, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for listening today. We will see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and leave a review. You can find me on most social media platforms at Dairy Gal Val or online at dairygalval.com. Thank you so much for coming to the Dairy Hour.